Well, negativity always comes from, most of the time, it comes from an insecure place.
Hey guys, Johnny Gray here with yet another episode of CrohnsCast. In this episode, we're talking to Ijmal and we asked him what his advice would be for people that are newly diagnosed. Now, Ijmal, if you've been following us, he's a bit of an entrepreneur and has a number of sort of things going on in the background, including his own architectural business. And he's an ambassador for Lifebold, which is an entrepreneurial project that helps people who suffer from chronic disease that want to start businesses. And he's also the president of the Calgary chapter for Crohns and Colitis Foundation Canada. So he's a pretty busy guy, and some of his advice has been really on point. So let's get stuck into this episode. Whoa, what happened there? I think I just teleported. Okay, let's try that again. So, let's get stuck into this episode. What advice would you give to somebody who's newly diagnosed or struggling with a diagnosis?
That's a tough one, because I think that newly diagnosed, you have to go through all the feelings a little bit. You have to kind of go through those stages before you're open to the idea of, you have to go through the process until you reach that point of realizing to accept your illness. So as painful as it was for me when I was first diagnosed to go through those stages of grief, I think it was important to grieve all of the things that used to be, for me to understand the positivity in what I have. And not saying that everyone has to grieve, because there's certain people that might be diagnosed and they don't go through that because for them they're strong enough to like just power through right away. But being first diagnosed, it's a tough situation because it affects everybody differently. Like for me, I was affected, my mental health was affected for a good 2 years before I really made a difference for myself. And then for other people I've talked to, and they were like, as soon as I found out, I studied what I needed to change. I did everything I needed to do, change my diet, everything. And it's just been an adjustment, but I've done it. So I think it's a matter of how people, their process. But I think everyone needs to know it's okay to be vulnerable. Everybody needs to know it's okay to express your feelings. Having feelings isn't a negative thing. Showing emotion isn't a negative thing. Having some sort of an outlet to express yourself, whether it's you want to write it down in a book or you want to start an Instagram page, whatever it may be, I think it's important to know to not stifle that voice. Because if you stifle that voice, you're just keeping it inside, and then you're going to increase your stress. And when you increase your stress, you're probably it becomes a vicious cycle with the illness, where you're perpetuating the illness by staying stressed.
How do you feel about the current movements of Instagram and hiding the likes and things at the minute? Because in my head, just as you were talking, I was like going, would people in our positions be vulnerable?
Well, I don't know. I have not really experienced much trolling, but I know a lot of people that have. The one thing that I always tell them is that the people who hide behind their computer and just like to spew out negativity, they wouldn't have the gall or like the confidence to say that to your face. They hide behind a computer and say what they want. And don't focus on the amount of likes you get, because that's not the validation that we need. The validation that we need is within ourselves. So getting our stories out there and being vulnerable and taking that burden and that weight off yourself is what's most important. It's not how many people are listening to you, how many people are liking it. So because when I started this journey on Instagram, I didn't really expect anybody to be listening. I started a new account, Razzie Blog, just to write somewhere. I didn't know if people would respond. It was never my intention. So I think setting out the intention of you're doing this for yourself rather than that you're doing this for other people. If in turn it helps other people, then that's wonderful. But the intention for you should be to focus on yourself. And then if you help people along the way, that's just an added bonus. And if you're able to maintain helping people on the way, that's great. But don't focus on what other people think about your journey.
I'm like, I've not experienced any negative comments yet, but I'm still very new to the sort of social media world. It's been kind of one of those things for me where it's been something I'll do, photograph a cat and stick it on somewhere. Whereas now I'm starting to find a bit more of a purpose. And similar to how you were, I kind of feel like I have a number of conversations in the last few years with people who just seem to be coming out of the woodwork with IBD. I thought, well, if so many people are asked that I'm bumping into just in serendipity are having these issues, how many people are out there that I'm not bumping into are having these issues, and what way can I sort of, from my own sort of professional perspective and personal perspective, do something to help these people. But I think if I was to encounter that negativity, one of the things I find, do you ever follow Gary Vee or anything like that? He's on YouTube and Instagram, but one of the things he talks about is if that person's leaving you negative comments, it says more about that person than it says about yourself. He feels sorry for them because they've spent that time consuming what he's saying and then sat there and thought about what they wanted to say back and spend so much time in a negative feedback loop that he's like, wow.
Well, negativity always comes from, I find, not always, most of the time it comes from an insecure place. If someone chooses to pass judgment on you, or if they have anything negative to say about your experiences, or they choose to, just have anything negative to say, it always stems from an insecurity. And it could be as they may feel uncomfortable by the fact that you're able to be vulnerable and they're not, so they'll call you out on it, or they'll pass judgment on you for, it's like they're always trying to catch you in some sort of in a vulnerable spot just to make themselves feel better. And if that's how that person chooses to try and find validation in their life, yeah, you can do nothing but feel bad for them, because you should be able to find validation and happiness within yourself without having to put other people down.
Oh. Wow. Definitely think I've just learned how to teleport. That was a great episode with Ijmal, and he touched on some really good points for people that are just getting their diagnosis or working through their IBD journey, thinking about working towards accepting their illness and helping that process allow them to come to terms with where their life is going now. So yeah, I think you'll agree with me. That was a really good episode, and Ijmal has got so much to offer. So if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that like button, 2020 style, subscribe to the channel, and if you hit that bell icon, you'll get updated every time that we upload. So guys, I'm going to teleport out of here, and I'll see you on the next episode.